As students across East Tennessee get ready to head back to the classroom, we were able to sit down with Dr. John Rysewyk. He is the superintendent of the largest school district in our area, Knox County Schools. Our conversation encompassed all sorts of topics, from the use of AI to other technology, school security, book bans, and how much they're spending on all of this, because the Knox County Schools budget accounts for 2/3 of the county budget. Here's my conversation with Dr. John Rysewyk. Dr. John Rysewyk, Superintendent of Knox County Schools, here with us in the studio today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we know that this has to be a busy week for you because the students and teachers are heading back to the classroom officially next week. So we appreciate you making time for us.
Oh, yeah, always.
So let's go ahead and dive into these different topics. There's going to be a wide array of things that we talk about today. But first, let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, AI. It's such a hot button topic. We talked about it some on Inside Tennessee this past weekend. But what does AI look like in Knox County Schools, in the classroom, in and beyond that for you all?
That's a great question. And, you know, the more and more organizations we're part of, I think everyone's grappling with that same thing right now. You know, like what does it look like? What does it mean? So we don't have that figured out yet. I was fortunate to go to Cal Berkeley last year and talk with a group of folks there and leaders, private and public sector, and their conclusion was kind of, we don't have this figured out yet either. So I would say, you know, just talking about that, you know, first of all, it follows the same thing for us as technology. It's a tool. So there is no, I know there's lots of different theories of what AI, the impact it's going to have on different industries, but for us, we're a people business. And so it is a tool for our folks to use for efficiency. And again, we're still learning what all that looks like, but ultimately it is not a replacement of our people, of our teachers, of our educators. And so we do know that, you know, we put stakes in the ground as we learn, right? And that's one of those. So, but for technology as a whole for us, it really is meant to be a tool that helps us be more efficient, that helps us be to learn and do those kinds of things. So I think there's two parts of that for us. There's one, what do we do as an organization? We're a large organization, you know, 9,000 employees, and we need to make sure we're being efficient and that we're learning along with AI and other technologies that come about. But then there's also, we're preparing the next generation. And so what does that mean? I would say that's one of those spaces that we're learning right now. We always say we reserve the right to get smarter. There was a big push in education probably over the last 15 years to try to get to become one-to-one districts. I think when we saw the pandemic come through, there was even a greater push and dollars available to do that. So most districts did go one-to-one at that point. And so is too much of a good thing bad is where the question probably is now. Is the pendulum swung too far? And so there is some emerging research that is showing some negative impacts of technology. Would lump AI into that category too, as we kind of treat them the same. And so we're taking a real look at that this year. Our board passed a policy this week that did some limitations, especially in the K-5 grades. But we also don't want to be a knee-jerk too fast, because there are a lot of positives that come from technology, such as quicker formal assessments, some efficiencies that could be gained in the classroom. And when we talk to employers in Knoxville, they're using it too. So we have to make sure that we have exposure for students, but it's not a replacement for things like critical thinking, creativity, and some just communication, right? We want kids to be able to talk and work as a group and learn to do those skills too. So I think this is going to be a good year for us. We've established a committee that'll have parents and educators that will help us look at that and have conversations and look at the research to make sure that, you know, our kids coming out of Knox County schools are ready for the future, but still balanced.
Yeah, and I mean, you grew up being taught by teachers, the blackboard, the whiteboard, all of that in-person instruction, taking notes with pen and paper, pencil and paper. To you, in this age where, you know, one-to-one, the Chromebooks, the computers, what do you feel is the best way to learn? And you sort of mentioned it there, too, that the policy is always being tinkered. You all are always learning more and adjusting. But to you, what does that future look like?
You know, I will say this. I actually have a probably very different view of the future. I think when it all boils down, I think we're going to see a swing back to fundamentals, right? I think there is, you know, to teach a student to read. That still takes It is. We talk about it's a lot like brain surgery sometimes. It's very complex. There's multiple layers to what that looks like. So I think there is going to be this call back to that. No shortcuts. Critically thinking, comprehending well, fluency in how to do that. Those are core skills that a computer can't teach, that AI can't teach, or AI can't shortcut or should shortcut for the long term. So I do think we'll see a pushback to some of that, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good counterbalance. I think at the same time, I know you probably do the same thing. AI does help us on drafts. It helps us on suggestions. It can be kind of that tutor or that second voice, but it's usually not the final. So I think we want to teach folks how to write good prompts too, and how is that useful, and when is it like plagiarism versus when is it something that just helps you as a tool to get to the next level to think. So we don't have all those answers right now of what that exactly looks like. I think the future will have both, but I do think there's this real pushback to why do schools exist? And I do think reading is a big part of that. Math's a big part of that. As a district, that's been our focus, and it's now me starting my 5th year as superintendent. We focused hard on excellence and foundational skills. We've seen gains every year for the last 5 years, pretty much in every subgroup too, across all of our core academics. And we know that's what matters. We know there's no replacement for that. Just this past year in our 3rd grade reading, we saw a 4.9% increase. Which almost near a 5% increase in 8th grade math, which is important for us too, because that's the future of STEM jobs. And those we saw a 4.5% increase. So, that's very important for us. That's really the purpose of what we do. How technologies work in that is probably going to be different at different times, different career paths that students may choose. And so we need to be open and listen to employers for that as well.
Yeah, well, from technology to technical education, the 865 Academies is something that you all have offered now in the last decade. I mean, in terms of implementing that and seeing sort of the results of that, the successes, all of those types of stats. What sort of insight can you give us on those 865 Academies and the emphasis on technical education?
Yeah, so for us, I think there was a long time in education where there was kind of two paths for kids. It was you're pretty smart and you're college bound, or, you're good with your hands, right? And you're going to do that. And what we realized is that the future is both. You have to be, there's not a place where all students don't need to be performing at grade level or beyond. Even jobs that used to be mechanic jobs, HVAC jobs, things like that, they have a high technical piece that goes with that too. But also our kids who are really smart and maybe going to Ivy League schools also have to be able to apply that knowledge. And so I think that's where career and technical education comes in as the perfect marriage. So all of our students through 865 Academies, they choose a pathway that allows them to do both. So all of our students are graduating both with any honors, AP, fine arts credits they need for graduation and want to excel in. But then they're also getting this practical exposure. We have guaranteed experiences through our academies. Every freshman takes a freshman seminar where 4 to 5 CEOs and or business leaders in our community come in and speak to them about the kind of their career path, how they chose it. We do aptitude testing for students, kind of where are your gifts and your talents and how are you kind of slanted to be successful. They research careers, and then their sophomore year they'll go make a visit to either lots of our local businesses, maybe to Pellissippi, different places to talk about what that looks like. Their junior year they have a 6-hour job shadow where they'll do more in that path that they've chosen. And so they'll be taking, again, the career tech ed classes along with their core academics. And then their senior year, they do a capstone, kind of a reflection of what they learned. And our goal really in that is not to have them figure their whole life out by 17 or 18. Our real goal in that is that they've had chances to have a lot of exposures and they know what they're good at. If you're going to go on to enroll in a post-secondary, we want you to have taken a dual enrollment credit, to have passed a college class or an AP credit, to kind of say, when I get to college, I can do this. I've proven it while I'm still surrounded by teachers that are around me. If you want to go straight to work in a high-wage job, we want to know that you've done an industry credential, you've gained certification in some area. And if you want to enlist, we have a lot of our schools that have junior ROTC programs, criminal justice programs, those sorts of things. We want to know that you've dipped your toe in, you've got a good feel, you've talked to other professionals in that, and then when you make that decision your senior year, what your next step is, you're pretty confident that it's going to be a successful one.
Yeah, and have you seen that success in the numbers and the statistics?
We have. We've seen, kind of two things we look at. One is just straight graduation rate. Yeah. We've seen that continue to go up. We're fluctuating now between 93 and 94% for the most part. And then the other place we've seen that is really this kind of metric on college and career readiness. It goes back to, did you prove, but you met the state requirements for graduation? That's wonderful. But did you do things along the way, like an industry certification, like an advanced placement class or dual enrollment, to kind of prove that you're college ready, that you're workforce ready, that you're ready to go enlist? So for us, we don't want you to just meet the state minimum requirements to be a graduate. We want to know that you've got a plan and you've experienced it. And sometimes it's just as valuable for us if students realize that's not what they want to do. We've had some be in health, they'll be in a health science field, and they'll go to a hospital on a visit or rotation, and they'll see blood and go, oh, I can't handle that. Well, that's great to figure that out your sophomore year before of high school, before you spend a lot of dollars trying to pursue nursing. So for us, it's really about exposure and just kind of that education for that. And then we've built in the academies kind of big to small structures. So instead of just a large comprehensive high school now, there's an assistant principal that runs each academy. There's a counselor assigned to that academy. There's a team of teachers. So it kind of makes big to small so that everybody's seen in the school and every student has a plan when they leave.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on now to talk more about the school board's recent decisions. Mm-hmm. As recent as Monday night, mm-hmm. they made some big decisions. One about the book policy, mm-hmm. book banning in particular. That's also a hot button topic. Sure. Right now, there's over 120 books that are on that banned book mm-hmm. list. So now there's a new policy in play. Well, they're implementing mm-hmm. a new sort of system for mm-hmm. that. Will the decisions on Monday impact that list at all?
Yeah, there's potential for that. So I think really what's happened is, this law, legislators, again, full credit to them. They run for these offices. They believe in what's best for Tennessee. When the law came a few years ago, what it did was it kind of took out a lot of wiggle room. It laid out 5, and it had a legal definition for these 5. If any library book, unique that it's a library book, not a textbook, contain any of these 5 topics, then they have to be pulled, and basically they're illegal to be in public school libraries. So for us, we take that very seriously. Removing a book from a library shelf is a really big deal. So we also, following the law is a really big deal, right? So we want to make sure those two things work. So for us, we rolled out initially kind of a committee that would review. There was a way for people to pass that up. It was a smaller committee because the idea was we were going to be compliant pretty quick. We had a quick turnaround to get compliant. What we realized is we have, over 750,000 library books. So there's no way we were going to be compliant in a month or two. So we stretched that out a little bit. Ran our process for that, and with help of librarians, identified a lot of the books that potentially would be illegal based on this law. I think, as we've continued to grow and work through this and hear more from legislators and more from other districts and how that's applied, I think the things that we really looked at is it's important to have a lot of voices and a lot of people at the table, and I think that's what the change in policy did yesterday. One, it added a clean mechanism for how that works. It also combined a few things. There are non-library books that would just be like materials used in the classroom that can also be challenged. And I think that was confusing to some of the public. That is, library books have a certain way that happens, and if it's a non-library book, it has another way. So some of the policy cleaned up to where it's all kind of on one form now if people want to fill that out. And then it really spread representation. So we have 5 regions the way we divide our district up. There'll be educators, there'll be a board member, there'll be parents who will now serve on that. So it's a little bigger group of folks who will be weighing in on. The law doesn't change. Let me be clear on that. The law doesn't change. There's a lot of folks who wanted us to be able to say, read the whole book, not just an excerpt, but the law isn't very flexible when it comes to that. It talks about excerpts, talks about you can't look at the whole work. You have to look at specific things. And I think that's really kind of the more recent controversy we had was around a pretty well-known book, Roots, that was taken off the shelf that through that committee's look actually lined up very well with the definition of the law, and then that decision was made. And I think that's what kind of got folks going, wait, what's going on with this? So, we continued to seek other legal opinions and got some other enough that I felt like we could put it back on the shelf, and there was enough wiggle room in some of that description. But you ask about the 122 books that have been through that process. We thought it's only fair that the process is new now, and the board agreed with us last night that we run all those 122 books through the same process. We didn't want them removed on an old process now that the board has a new process. So over the course of the next year, they'll be processing all those books back through, as well as any other that get challenged.
And that school board, I mean, there's an election coming up. There's going to be a lot of new school board members that are popping up there too. And your job is unique because the school board, they're the ones who evaluate you. They're kind of your bosses in a way.
They are. They are.
That's a unique relationship. How do you balance that? And then, how do you manage that working in a public office with people who are also, the board is constantly changing with each election?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, going into my 5th year now, none of the 9 members that were the first board to elect me in or appoint me as the superintendent are in those positions now, after the 3 that rolled off this week. So, I kind of look at everything that way. Legislators that way, county commission that way, and our board's the same. I really get to know these folks and really know their heart and know. I have yet to meet one that ran for an ulterior motive, right? They're really, if you run for the state offices, you're going, I believe in Tennessee and I want to make it better. Our county commissioners are the same way. I know them really well. They run to make Knoxville better, right? And so our board members are the same way. They have a passion about education. They understand that we're raising the next generation, and if Knoxville's going to be prosperous, then it depends on how our public schools work. So I think that's the common thread. No matter what party you're on or what you think or what your views are, in the end, we really try to center it all back on what's best for students. We have strategic plans that are set to that. We have our 4 priorities that we're set to that and all of our goals and metrics. So, our goal is to continue to move that, and it's really easy to get consensus around that. Now, there's a lot of different opinions on how to do that, and that's why we have board meetings, and I think that's really healthy to have conversations that are representative of our community when we try to grapple with what's best. But it always comes back to, what's advancing our kids. And again, we've had 5 great years of growth across the board for all of our kids, and I think that's something all the elected folks should be proud of because they've supported those policies, they've aligned those dollars and resources so that we could be successful. And I think the next folks who fill in those seats will understand that as well.
As Knox County focuses on how you're growing and expanding and getting better, both on the school board and in your role and at the individual schools, we've also seen a trend since really the pandemic with shrinking enrollment. A lot of parents are choosing to maybe homeschool their kids or go different routes with them. How seriously should we be taking that? And then also, is there a chance in the future of maybe consolidating or closing some of those smaller elementary schools because of that?
Yeah, great questions. I would say, first of all, the enrollment trends we're seeing are actually statewide. And I think, the questions we usually get is that because of the ESA or the vouchers that were passed. We haven't seen a huge impact from that. I was talking to my colleague in Chattanooga. I think they had been doing it longer there. I think they saw an increase of like 15 kids. So I think folks who are choosing private, and we have some really good private schools in Knoxville, and that's a family choice to be able to go do those things. So we haven't seen that. We've always taken the approach that we have to make sure that what we're providing is top quality so that people want to be there. And by and large, people have chosen to be there for that. I think the bigger thing we're seeing in enrollment is just kind of smaller families, right? As a city, as we urbanize a little more, and maybe there were 3 or 4 kids in a family before, now we're seeing 2 or 1 kids, or some families choosing not to have kids. So people are moving into Knoxville, but that's not really driving our population up. A lot of retirees, a lot of folks like that are coming in. So I don't think it's as much a choice choosing out of Knox County at this point. I think we saw most of the people who used the voucher system were ones who were probably already in private school, and great, great for them. They could use that to their benefit. We have one charter school right now that has really produced great results as well, and we work well with them too at Emerald Academy. But really, our focus is just to make sure, as long as we're providing the best education for students, our communities by large are entrusting that and being part of that. So, we continue to try to move with the times. We actually, our board passed a policy this year to open our enrollment outside of the county so that people could actually come in. It's something we hadn't done before. And we saw some families take advantage of that this summer to come in and be part of the good things happening in Knox County. Athletics are a big part of that too. There's a lot of things that have changed in TWSAA that have opened up a lot of doors for transfers, a one-time transfer rule and things. And we want to be flexible and up to time on that too. So those are some of the reasons we did those.
Yeah, well, in the classroom, on the football field or the basketball court, beyond that too, security is a big focus with Knox County schools, and we've seen an increase in that over the years. It's something that you all want to invest in. How can we expect to see that investment grow?
Yeah, we're every board we've worked with has been committed to that. We still say safety is our number one concern, our number one priority, and I really want families to understand that in coming back. We'll do a press conference in the next week or so to kind of talk through some of those strategies. I would say it really comes down to relationships. I'm fortunate that our Chief Crenio, lets me speak to the new group of cadets that are going through our program every year, and they just really stress that relationships, just the importance that our officers, a lot of people don't know that they are bonded by the Sheriff's Department. They've gone through all the trainings. They're highly trained in what they do, and we have one of the largest school security teams in the state. Over 140 officers that we assign to school. So we put an officer in every school. And then our two partners, the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Spangler's been great, and as well as Chief Noel at KPD, based for your city or county, they'll give an officer as well, work very closely with them. So the relationship that we always challenge during the graduations are the relationship that our officers have with the students is often their first encounter with law enforcement, someone in a uniform, and just how important that is to relate to kids, for them to see you in their lunch hour, to come to you and have conversations with you. It really forms their impact on what they'll think of law enforcement for the future, and our guys do it, and ladies do a great job of that. Then it's the partnership again with the other agencies. Folks don't know this either as much, but we work with TBI and the FBI and Homeland Security and the whole group on a daily basis, like very closely, share intel, work through all those things. And so it's great knowing all of that's working behind the scenes 24/7. We're doing home visits. Sheriff's Department's helping with that. KPD's helping with that. Any threats that come up that we hear about, we take them all seriously. But we always ask for our families, if you see something, say something too, because we'll take every threat serious and look into it. Our board has continued to invest, one, in the salaries of our people, and we're seeing a lot of our folks stay because of that. And then in two other areas, we really, and most recently, security is always layers. You're never 100% secure. You're always building layers to make that happen. So a recent investment in continuing to look at upgrading and enhancing our entrances to all buildings. They're all safe now, but any new technologies that come out, we're looking at. We'll be talking later at our press conference about an enhanced weapons detection system that we'll be deploying this year too. So we just continue to try to stay up to date on what are the trends, what are we seeing from our other agencies that could work, and then we deploy those at the school, and we try to do it in a way, because it's really important to us that it doesn't feel institutionalized, that school still feels like school. But behind the scenes, that all of the safety measures are there if we were to need them.
Yeah. And then also, right now in the news, we're talking a lot about the cyclospora outbreak across the country. Of course, that has contaminated some fruits and vegetables. There's 18,000 cases across the country as well, including some here in Knox County. But what's the approach here in Knox County schools? We have also been reporting about a Chattanooga area school district that has changed their lunch menu in a way. Is KCS considering any changes to that menu? Is that something on your all's radar?
Yeah, it's not impacted us yet. I mean, we've not seen it at that level to have to. Brett Foster is our executive director over food service, who does a great job. Throughout summer, we feed a lot of students too. We have summer programming for that, so it really never stops for us. So she does a good job staying on top of those trends. Every school has its staff as well. So right now, we're not seeing anything that would cause that, but we stay on top of that. And if there's a need to make a shift, then obviously maybe it's a different provider for that food, or maybe it's a item that would come off for a given time until it's safe again. But we haven't seen that in our school system to date, and we'll be ready to start feeding people come Monday. So,
and Superintendent too, I mean, your job is all about looking forward, seeing how you can improve, always thinking about the next thing. But let's take a look back for a second, because you said it yourself that you're going into your 5th year as superintendent. Before that, you had 20 years of experience within KCS too. So as you look back on your tenure now as superintendent, what would you say are your 3 biggest accomplishments in your time?
Well, I would say, first of all, I haven't accomplished anything. We have an amazing team. we always say this, we're not confused. Our school system is our teachers and our principals at the school. When people stop me and talk about Knox County schools, they're not talking about what I do on a daily basis. They're talking about a teacher experience of their second grader. They're talking about a car door that was opened by a principal. And so our people are really the story. And I would say I'm most proud of that. We made a commitment that we were going to make that our number one strategy 4 years ago. Now, with that comes a lot of accountability. If you're a teacher, if you work for Knox County schools, it means something, and our folks understand that. You're part of a team that was highly selected to do the work. And it still continues to be our best strategy. So we've committed to pay structures, market value structures. We've made the cuts we've needed to make those pay happen, a $44 million investment on market value salaries a few years ago. And in 2028, we'll do that again. And so you don't get there all of a sudden and close that gap. You have to do that year over year. So pretty confident that we'll continue to make those tough choices so that we can continue to pay our people. So I'd say that's probably one of my three. The outcomes for kids too. We spent a lot of time 5 years ago thinking about, what are we uniquely positioned to do? If an organization doesn't understand that, it's never going to hit those targets. So, we're not the community, we're a piece of the community. So for us, we are the only ones who can wake up every day thinking about the next generation. And if you don't have excellence in those foundational skills, if you don't have reading abilities and math abilities on grade level to perform, then Knoxville's not going to prosper in 10 years and 20 years. So the fact that we have seen all of our subgroups move up, and that's important too. You can't just take your top flyers and say they're doing better. Every kid who has every challenge moving up, and then 5 consecutive years of growth in all 5 core areas to us show that it trickles down to our 91 schools. Our teachers get it. Our principals get it. We know why we're here. We know what our value is to the community, and we focus on that every day. So I would say that's definitely the outcomes we've gotten for students is another big one too. And I would just say probably transparency and communication. We worked really hard over 5 years. We produce annual reports. We do a podcast now. We hold press conferences to do that. We try to, you guys are great partners. The media are great partners. Sometimes you ask hard questions, but it's our job to answer them, and we own that. But I think just really helping people understand that they're all part of this. We can't do this alone. Helping them understand things, us holding ourselves accountable and sharing that out is important too. So I would say definitely our teachers and staff, the outcomes for our students, and then just being able to be part of the community, be transparent and accountable to that.
To you, what's the biggest challenge still ahead to tackle?
I would say it's probably not being distracted, right? There's so many things. We've talked about some of those now that come up, and we need to make sure the main thing always stays the main thing. Why we exist and what we've had success with over 5 years is focusing on students. And it's easy to say what's best for students, but what's best for students for us is moving them forward academically and making sure they're on grade level or above. And I think sometimes lots of other issues can come in. And they need to be talked about and they need to be addressed, but there's nothing more important than making sure all of our students are moving forward. So I would just say that we put those in the right place. We research them when we need to. We have real conversations about them, but we never let that become more important than the outcomes for students.
And what do you want those students, parents, families to know as they get ready to head back to class?
We're excited. We're ready. And I think even though we've had 5 great years of data, we still see areas. We have a continuous improvement mindset. My whole team and staff feels that way too. Our teachers feel that way. And I think what's great is it's not that we're doing well and let's keep pushing for a little more. It's not that. I think it's that everybody on the ground sees where the little things they could do, the one other step they could take, and we're not even having to drive that anymore, right? They just want to be better because they understand their work matters. And if we are successful, then their kids are successful, and in turn, Knoxville successful.
All right, Dr. John Rysewyk, thank you so much for being with us here in the podcast studio today.
Thanks.
We appreciate your time and happy back to school season.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.